I want to talk just briefly a particular anecdote about why students are unprepared for college. A couple weeks back, we were talking about metabolism, and I mentioned that to my class that plants also burn sugar for energy. And a student says, "Wait, are you telling me that plants are alive?" And this is not an 18-year-old. This is a woman who is probably in her late 20s, and I've had her before in another class. And somehow she made it to this age without understanding that plants are alive. Her classmates made fun of her. And it's not about her anymore. It's about that there's a fundamental misconception out there about the way things are, about what's important, and the way things actually work. This woman made it into her mid-20s thinking that veganism was virtuous because she's eating plants which aren't alive. And that's what made it okay. And now she's got this different, this dichotomy of thought to process through her mind about whether or not her justification and rationalization for the decisions that she's made is valid or not. Not to mention the fact that she's been caught belying her inexperience and her lack of knowledge. It isn't that she's stupid, it's that she's ignorant. Somehow she made it to this level without anyone explaining to her that plants are alive. I don't know how that happens. Now, I'm a plant scientist. I come from a plant background. I'm very familiar with the classes about teaching about plants, their anatomy, their physiology, their behavior. My neighbors all ask me for advice on how to help their garden grow, to take care of problems with their plants. Garden grow implies it's alive. But this woman made it there, and I wonder. I carry around somewhere. I probably don't have it easily accessible. Actually, let me find it, and I'll come back. I found it. This is from the local newspaper from summer of 2016, so this is pretty old. And it reports that under 10% of students are college ready, okay? And yet we send them to college anyway. And this particular woman is just one of the examples. And this was just based on their test scores. And the test scores don't cover everything. Only 9% of juniors who completed the college entrance exam scored well enough to be considered college ready in reading, math, English, and science. That's awful. Okay. And then the politicians will go out there and talk about we're investing in education. Now, I don't know about you, but investment is something that I expect to directly benefit from, particularly with a financial interest. And here in Las Vegas, our politicians seem to confuse investment with gambling. Nobody, for example, goes down to a casino and says, I'd like to place an investment at the casino, because everybody knows that that's not what it is. And yet here we have education where, based on the stats provided by the Nevada Department of Education, education in Nevada is not an investment. It's a gamble. And here's the reason why. This is a state that neither recognizes nor rewards scholastic achievement. Most members of the Board of Regents, this is not to slander them, this is a statement of fact, are not college educated. Many of our politicians are not college educated. And the ones who are, like most politicians who are elected, think that their election is a beatification. It's not. A college degree is also not a beatification. It's a qualification. You can't become a professor without a degree. You can become a politician without a degree. All you have to do is, win a popularity contest or something. But that does not mean that you become an expert on everything. It means that you have a responsibility to gain a competency so that you can make the correct decisions. Except that here in Nevada, the decisions are anything that serves the two big industries here, gambling and mining. And I don't know about you, but neither one of those industries requires a particularly large number of people who are college educated or who have advanced degrees. Now, there are some, don't argue that, but most of the people there are manual or menial labor. Not that those jobs don't require risks, they're not hard work, they are not education. So this is not a state that is built around educating its people. Most of our college graduates leave because there's nothing for them to do. I once on campus, probably 2016, 2017, which is why I've been carrying this article around that long, came to campus and to have this forum that he wanted our input on how we could encourage our students to finish college and apply that. And I said two things. I said, number one, what would you tell students to do with a chemistry degree when they graduate? I know what I say, but what would you say? Because you're here as the subject matter expert, right? You're convening this because you have all these great ideas. Of course, he had none. Secondly, I said, will you tell the students in this panel how you use the degree that you earned in college to become the successful man you are today? And I said that because he didn't finish college. And I followed it up after his worthless diatribe down the rabbit hole of verbiage. I said, so clearly what this shows is that rather than spending the time and money having them college educated, we should simply have them elected to public office, which has clearly made you an expert on everything. That didn't go over well. The chancellor liked that. He didn't. The politician didn't. Education is not what we think it is. Our students are not learning the basic things. They're not learning important things. They're not learning how things are related to each other. They are learning specific things primarily to do jobs. And you can do a lot of jobs without knowing plants are alive. The problem I have is people who, in her position, who made her choices, who become self-righteous, not that she was, and then preach veganism, for example, again, not to slander vegans, that it is virtuous because you're not killing anything, ignores the fact that plants are alive too. And like I told my students after this happened, I said, at least when I eat animals, I kill them first. You eat plants while they're still alive. And then we talked about why plants are eaten while they're alive, because there's a good reason for that. But if you don't know that, then you can operate in a bubble. And so what we have here is this problem. And I've articulated this for years. I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere. It's in my book, Free Thinker, when that finally gets published. I've posted it on other YouTube channels without putting my name after it because I don't want to look super arrogant. But here's the problem. While it is true that the scum or the cream rises to the top, so too does the cream. And the problem is that the scum thinks it's cream. So anyone who rises to a leadership position, an elected position, a governance position, a wealthy position, oftentimes assumes that they got there because they are superior. Well, remember that the scum is not superior to the cream. The scum happens to occupy the same place in the milk as the cream. So coincidence is not correlation. Just because you're at the top does not mean you are creme de la creme. It might mean that you're the scum. Of course, I'm not saying that I'm the cream. I don't belong at the top. I belong where I am, in the classroom, in the lab, in an office, helping people make connections between information and situation. That's where I belong. But I do have enough information to know that just because you're at the top does not mean you belong there, or that people should laud you as if you were the cream. Somehow this woman made it into college and to this level after this many years, and no one bothered to explain to her that plants are alive. Who knows how many people have been influenced by that thought? And I'll leave you with this. The reason that governs the videos that I share, the thoughts that I share, my opinions, no one forced you to watch this, I hope, is this. Do not fear who might be offended by the things that you say. Worry instead about those who will be hurt by the things you don't. I may not be the person to articulate these thoughts. I don't do PC. I'm a Mac. I don't try to manage other people's feelings. I delineate facts. Chemistry is facts. Facts and figures, they tell us what they tell us. Like I told my class last night, don't worry about if you got the right answer. You got 3. They were consistent. You were precise. That's what we're looking for here, is precision first, then accuracy, because we want you to learn the techniques. I don't expect you to be perfect in a 100 level class. I expect you to be precise, to be proficient. We'll let that come later if it actually becomes your job. But for now, we want you to appreciate the work that goes into doing a good job as a scientist so that you can recognize the cream from the scum. But I tell them this because I need you to understand that I may not be the right mouthpiece for this, but I don't hear anyone else saying it or anyone else saying it better. So I will continue to say it so that whether it was well said or not, people can't complain that nobody said it, that no one told them. You can't say nobody told you. I did. My conscience is clear. And when someone comes along who does a better job for the same pay, then you should listen to them instead. This is why I don't do certain content. I let other people do it because they're much better at it than I am. and you should get it from the best source possible. So when someone better comes along, I'll point you in that direction. Meanwhile, remember, plants are alive. Remember that everything that we do influences everything else to one degree or another. Somewhere an atom collided with another atom, and so on and so forth until it collided with us. And so when you do bad things, they also affect other people, and you may not know it. And when you give bad information, it affects people, and you may not be able to prevent the fallout that comes from that. So be wise. What can I say more? Godspeed, take care, make good decisions, and eat your vegetables, even though they're alive. Ciao.